Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, May 10th, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I have a finished object to share with you all today. It is what I have on. It is the Stansbury Shawl, which is a new design that I test knitted for Emily Clawson of Salt City Knits, or you can also find her patterns on yarnbrary.com. And this is a wonderful shawl design that she made using a sock set. So it uses a 100-gram skein of yarn fingering weight paired with a 20-gram mini. So it's a really fun way to use a sock set, or in my case, I didn't use a typical sock set. I didn't use a sock set as, you know, it didn't come as a sock set in the way that I used it, but I actually did use a 100-gram skein that came as a sock set, but used the mini that came with it for a different project, and used a mini from a different sock set and paired it with this one. But of course, you can just use any 100-gram skein and any 20-gram skein that you would like to pair together for this beautiful shawl. And it is designed so that, you know, it still is really wearable, even though it only takes, my shawl actually weighs 100 grams total. So I used, I think, 83 grams of my full skein and 17 grams of my mini skein. But it's just a really nice way to be able to use a really special skein of yarn that you've been hanging on to for a while, and you know, maybe you don't want to use it to make socks because it's so special that you don't want to just put it on your feet. You want to have it as more of a special piece. And it's just a wonderful way to be able to use one of those special skeins for a wonderful project that was quick and easy to work up, yet is still super wearable. So I think it's wonderful. I think it's so beautiful. I'm so happy with how it came out. So the yarn that I used was actually dyed by Emily of Yarnbrary, and it was in a sock set called Winter in the Big Woods. It's a fingering weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. And the mini that I paired with it was from Dandelion and Dogwood, and it came in the sock set of the Candy Cane Peppermint Bark sock set that I received from Dandelion and Dogwood. And that is actually on a stellina base, so it's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. I started off knitting this using a US 5 3.75 millimeter set of needles, but quickly realized that my gauge was too tight using that, and so ended up using the recommended needles for the majority of the project, which were US 6 4 millimeter needles. Emily had originally said that she was a bit of a tighter, well, average to tighter knitter, and I'm a very loose knitter, so that's why I originally had gone down to a US 5. But I realized after working up a little bit that my gauge was too tight, so I went up to the larger needles, and I think it worked out really well. It's knit from the top down, and the majority of it is made in stockinette, and then it has these little garter ridges throughout the main portion of the shawl. And then you use the mini to do this gorgeous mesh section that I love. I loved doing that, and I love the way that it looks. I think it's so pretty. And then it ends off with an applied border, so you work the border back and forth, and you attach it to the rest of the shawl as you go along. I'll take it off so you can get a better idea of how it looks, but the way I had it styled there is really a wearable way to style it. You can see though that the applied border, there's a lot of knitting there. Emily states in the pattern, I think, that takes the longest time, and probably it did. You're only working across a few stitches there, and it works best to use a DPN for that applied border. But it really, I enjoyed the process of it. Even that applied border, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very enjoyable, and it worked best for me. Now I can't remember. I didn't finish it that long ago, but now I can't remember how many rows are repeated in the applied border. You'd think I'd be able to remember that. I think maybe 8 rows. That's a guess though. I think it's 8. Anyway, I just kept, it worked best for me just to use a row counter and just keep track of which row I was on. Some of the test knitters could read their knitting to know what row they were on, but I didn't try too hard to try to read my knitting because I was just nervous I'd mess it up. So I just kept a row counter and kept track of which row I was on. I started this shawl on April 23rd and finished it on May 3rd. And I didn't make any modifications to this pattern, so I followed the pattern exactly. I was a good test knitter. And I wouldn't make any modifications, probably, I should say, when I make this again, because I'm planning on making this shawl again. It was just so enjoyable, and I have another sock set that I would really love to work up into this shawl. So I won't be making any modifications the next time I make it either, because it just worked up so well. So pretty. I love it. When I was first knitting it, the top section here tended to roll. You can see it still maybe has a tendency to roll a little bit, but when you're wearing it, it's not a problem at all. And blocking it helped so much. So if you make it and you're a little nervous when you first start off that the top is rolling too much or not laying nicely, it blocks out really well. I love it. I also really like wearing it over the shoulders. It works really well like that as well. I'm just so happy that, you know, a shawl that's only 100 grams is still so wearable. So it works really nicely like this as well. And it still goes across the back nicely. And I found, maybe I should stand up to show you this. I found that here's my, like I've mentioned before, here's my uniform, is my leggings and my dress. And in some of my dresses, they have belt loops. So you can see this one has belt loops on either side here. And it works really well to kind of wear it crisscrossed in the front. And then I can just put the ends into these loops and it holds it nicely. And I think that this is really cute to wear it in this way as well. And it just keeps it in place really nicely. So it's not long enough. With some of my big shawls, I can wear them in this way and I can tie them in the back at my waist. But this one's not long enough to do that. But with these side loops, I can. So if you have either a dress or even a pair of pants that have belt loops on them, it might work. Or maybe you could use some type of a belt or something to fashion it in this way if you wanted to try that. But it works well with some of my dresses to wear it this way, and I think it's fun that way. So I'm very, very happy with this pattern. I am not 100% sure when the pattern will be coming out, but I don't think it will be too much longer. So I'll be sure to announce that whenever it does go live. I'll announce it both on my Instagram, which is Noble Character Crafts as well. And I'll try to. I'm not on Instagram a whole lot, but I'll try to. And then on my next, whenever the video comes out after it's been released, I'll let you know then as well. Hopefully I'll remember. That's my plan anyway. This is the only finished object that I have to share with you this episode. So I will go on to my works in progress. I have a few projects over here on my bed. I don't think they're in frame, but the frame that I see on my video is not the same that actually records. So if you see these projects over here, that was for a different recording that I'll mention later. But anyway, I will go on to my works in progress. The first one is this Scrappy Ripple Blanket that I've been working on. And I am not following a pattern for this project. I just made up my own numbers for this project. I used an old pattern, but have really changed around the numbers for mine. I have notes in the description box below that tell you how I made this blanket. If you want to make one similar, you can hopefully follow my instructions. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know and I'll try to explain them more clearly. But I am using up lots of scraps of worsted weight 100% acrylic yarn that I have in my stash. And I am absolutely loving working on this Scrappy Ripple Blanket. This cute bee progress keeper was gifted to me by my cousin Allie, and that is marking where I was last time, so I've just added a few more colors, and I love how it's looking. It's so much fun. It's super relaxing to work on this, and I just enjoy it so much. I'm using an H 5mm hook for this project, and this will just be a throw for our family to use whenever it is done. But that's as far as it is for now. I love it. I love the colors in it. And like I said last time, I'm going to be a little bit particular now about what scraps I put into this blanket because the color scheme I think is fun and pretty cohesive, even though it's scrappy. So I don't plan on putting any dark, super dark colors in this blanket. I'm going to keep it more neutrals and light and bright colors. That's my plan anyway. Okay. I also have an update on another one of my scrappy blankets, and this one I don't get to update you all on very often. I don't get to work on it very often because it is my scrappiest of scrappy projects. This is a granny stripe blanket that I use my tiny, tiny, tiny little scraps of fingering weight yarn. So anything that is under 3 grams goes into this blanket. I started this in July of 2020, and you'll see it's been almost 4 years and it's still very small because, like I said, the smallest amounts I add are maybe 18 inches long, and then I go anything under 3 grams will go into this project. I keep putting my notes down and picking them back up because I want to tell you more things. I started with a chain of 300. I followed a tutorial by Bella Coco to learn the pattern, which is very easy. I'm using a C 2.75mm hook, and I'm using a Russian join method to join my scraps when I change colors. So the last time I shared this was, I'm sure, many months ago, probably, I don't know, at least 4 months ago, but maybe, I don't know, I have no idea when I last shared this. But anyway, there is a stitch marker marking where I was the last time I shared this. So I've added just a few more rows, a few more inches, not a lot since I last showed this. But I just absolutely love this project so much. I think the colors in it are amazing, and it makes me so happy when I do get the opportunity to work on it. It's a joy. I just love it so much. I feel like it's just a treat to get to add anything to this blanket. So I have this basket, which I love. Isn't it pretty? I thrifted this basket, as I do with all of my baskets. I found it at a thrift store. I don't even remember where that was, but isn't it just gorgeous? It's such a pretty one. Anyway, I keep this basket on a shelf right over here to my left, and I just add my scraps to it whenever I have a scrap that's tiny. And then whenever I have a large pile added up, or, that I've saved up, then I add it to the blanket all at once. So that's what I did since I last recorded. And it's just such a pleasure, but I don't, like I said, don't do that very often. And then whenever I do add in my scraps, I share it on this channel. So yeah, it's not often that I get to share it, but I absolutely love it. And of course, it's going to take many more years for it to finally be finished, but I just love being able to use up the tiniest bits of scraps and not see any of this go to waste. I've mentioned before when I've shared this blanket that most of the time these scraps would have just gone into the trash. But I love getting to use them and actually make something useful. Even if it's not useful yet, it will be useful someday. And actually, you know, now it would make a beautiful shawl, or you could fold it in half and wear it as a scarf or something. It would be beautiful like that as well. But I'm going to keep going and make it into a blanket eventually, someday, many, many years from now. Okay, my next work in progress is a baby blanket that I am making from this beautiful little booklet that I was gifted by a viewer of this channel named Carlin. And I am making the front cover photo blanket. This is called Sweet Baby Blankets, The Best of Mary Maxim. It's a Leisure Arts publication. And this blanket is called Baby Flowers Blanket. It calls for DK weight yarn, and that's what I am using. I am using Deramores Studio Anti-Pilling DK yarn in 5 colors. This one is called Lime, Blush, Olive, and Rose. And then for my border color, I am using Almond. These are DK weight, 100% acrylic yarn. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not almond, that's powder. Sorry about that. Powder. But the other ones, I believe I have the right names. Maybe I should double check now just to make sure I haven't gotten them mixed up. I think I'm good. Yes, all those were correct. Last time I shared this project with you, I had just made, there's a repeat of 6 different motifs for this blanket. I am making a modification to this blanket because you're only supposed to use 3 colors within the flower motifs and then a 4th color for the joining. But I didn't have enough of 3 colors, so that's why I'm using 4 colors. And for that 3rd color, I'm alternating between the blush and the olive. So all of my motifs have the rose and the lime in them, and then every other one has either rose, either blush or olive, if that makes sense, hopefully. I've also rearranged 2 of the motifs from the way in the pattern it tells you exactly how to place all of your motifs, and I've switched 2 of mine around to get the color placement looking the best, in my opinion. But anyway, last time I shared this with you, I had just made 1 motif of each color combination. And again, there are 6 total motifs that you repeat throughout the blanket. And now I've made a lot of progress to it. I have started joining them. And last time I hadn't had anything joined, so I hadn't been using that joining color at all. And I have started building the blanket. So this is the width of the blanket. It will have a border in the end, but this is the width. So it has 7 motifs going across, and then every other row has 2 half motif flower pieces on the ends. Those are a little bit trickier to make, but not hard. The instructions, I think, are clear, but I've been crocheting for a while, so I'm not a great judge of whether something is easy or not. It's not the easiest pattern probably, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I find so much satisfaction in making these adorable little flower motifs. I think they're so cute. I especially love the petals and how those work up. I think they're so beautiful. I can definitely see myself making more with these motifs in the future because they're really, really fun to make, I think. And I think it's working up so beautifully. I love the color palette. I think it's so beautiful. It's so much fun to work on. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm using a G 4mm hook, which probably is the, I hear knocking. I hope you don't hear that knocking, but one of my children is knocking. Yes, it is the recommended hook size, a 4mm hook, and that's what I'm using, and I'm enjoying it so much. Oh, I am joining as I go. I'm joining the motifs together as I go, and that is probably different than the instructions. To assemble, using placement diagram with right sides of all motifs facing upwards, either using single crochet to join or sewing together, join blocks in order indicated. So I am doing my own thing with how I'm joining them. I am using slip stitches into the adjacent stitch from where I am joining as I'm doing that final round, which is made using double crochet stitches primarily. And I am just joining as I go. So that's another modification I am making. So anyway, I really love how it's looking. And again, I love making baby blankets just to have on hand. Like I mentioned all the time, it's my favorite thing to make, and I just like making them. I like making them to give as gifts. But then I also just really like making crocheted baby blankets because they're small, so they don't take forever. And I get to play with different colors and different patterns and try different things. And it's not as huge of an undertaking to make a baby-sized blanket. You know, they're quicker and they're easier, and I just love it. And people seem to be really appreciative whenever they are gifted a baby blanket. And so I just love making them. I keep a stash of them on hand and gift them whenever it's appropriate. Okay, I think I'll cover one more crocheted project that I have before I go on to a few knitted projects. And that is a project that my son is crocheting, and he really wanted me to share with you what he is making. So I have 5 children. We have 5 children, I should say. And the youngest is 10 years old, and he has really enjoyed crocheting lately. He does not like following patterns though. He likes to do his own thing, so he takes after me a bit in that way. And he is just doing his own thing and making a blanket. Now it's turning out a bit roughly, so I should probably look at why that is. If he's maybe, it looks like he's getting tighter as he's going along. No, he's getting looser. This is where he started. He's getting looser as he goes along. But he's doing some really fun stitches here. He's just doing double crochet stitches into the space in between the stitches on the row before. But anyway, I think it's super great that he is enjoying crocheting and doing kind of his own thing. It would also make a really fun scarf because it kind of curls right now. So I said, oh, it looks like a nice scarf. And he said, well, maybe I should just make it into a scarf then. So yeah, you could. The yarn he's using was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Kim. And it is Red Heart Hygge yarn. And I don't know the different colors that he's using. I don't have them memorized. But I have a ball of a different color that he's not using that I've saved for myself. And anyway, this is a bulky weight yarn. It's 70% acrylic and 30% nylon. And it's super fuzzy and fluffy and soft. And so it's fun to work with. So I just wanted to share that project that he has been working on. Okay, on to my knitted works in progress. And they are all ones that you all have seen before, but just an update on them. The first one is being held in this project bag that I sewed myself. It is one of the projects from my Make 9 board for the Make 9 2024 Mal that I am hosting this year on Instagram. And I've made some significant progress on this. This is the triangle garter wrap, which is a free pattern by Purl Soho. And I am modifying this pattern by using lace weight yarn instead of fingering weight yarn. So I am using up some silk mohair that I have had in my stash, and I just wanted to use it up to make a fun shawl, but an easy shawl. It's not difficult. It's just an easy triangle at this point. So you just increase on every row. I'm using US 5 3.75 millimeter needles. There is a progress keeper on there that was gifted to me by Emma of Potter and Bloom. And that marks where I was last time I shared this with you. So I've made a few inches of progress, but you do have to consider the amount of stitches that are on here right now. I haven't counted them in a long time, but you can see I have a little, maybe you can see, I have a connector piece here to join 2 of my cables so that I have enough length to kind of spread it out, but I can't actually spread it out completely right now. The yarns that I have used so far are both Knit Picks Aloft yarns. The first color I started off with was the white colorway, and now I am on my second skein of the Plover colorway, and maybe I'm a little over halfway through this little cake of yarn or donut of yarn. And once I finish this, then I will start. Oh, I'm also modifying the pattern because I'm not going to keep it as a triangle. I'm going to continue knitting and decrease my stitches after the halfway point to make it into a square instead of a triangle. And then my plan is to fold it in half and wear it doubled over as a shawl. Once I finish this donut of yarn, I'm going to start decreasing my stitches, and I'm going to work into some bare mohair. And then finally I will end off with, again, the Knit Picks Aloft, and this one is in the oat colorway. So this is lace weight yarn, and it is 72% Super Kid mohair, 28% silk. And I'm excited that I'm continuing to see progress on this project. Like I said, it is super, super easy, mindless project, but I do, like I've said before, I do have to continue to look at my stitches. I'm nervous that if I don't look at my stitches, I'll miss something, and mohair is pretty forgiving in that it doesn't unravel too easily, but if I don't want to miss any stitches is my fear, I guess. You can see there's a little bit of unevenness in my knitting, and sometimes I look at the little spaces that are a bit bigger and I think, oh no, I have a hole, but I don't think I have any holes yet. They're just looser stitches. So that's okay. I love the looks of this. I love the airiness of it. I think it's going to be super fun to have when it's done, but it is taking a long time. I started this in December last year, so it's a long-term project as well. My next shawl is another one from my Make 9 board. This one is again being held in a project bag that I sewed myself. This is another free pattern, and it is designed by an Italian knitter. It is called an Italian winter shawl. And guess what? I'm modifying this one too. So shocking. I am using fingering weight yarn held double for this project. The original pattern calls for worsted to Aran weight yarn, so mine's a bit thinner in that regard. And then I am also eliminating the eyelet rows that are included in the original pattern. I am using up the leftovers that I had from my Ariana cardigan that I finished earlier this year. And I'm just holding 2 strands double until they run out, and I weighed my leftovers and started with the yarn that I had the least of, and I'm working through the yarn that until, working my way up through the yarn that I have the most of. I'm again using the Russian join method to connect my yarn whenever it runs out. There's a beautiful progress keeper on there marking where I was last time. That was gifted to me by Tracy of Grizzly Knits. So I've made a few inches of progress on this one as well, which makes me super happy. Love how it's coming along. The needles for this project, I'm not sure. I can't read that needle easily. So let me look at my notes. I think I skipped it. There it is. I'm using 6 4mm, US 6 4mm needles for this project. I love it. I think it's so fun. The main purpose of this shawl is for me to have something to wrap up in on, especially first thing in the morning. I mean, I'm cold a lot of the time. It's not so much now that it's warming up a bit, but throughout the winter months for sure, when I wake up, I'm cold and I want something to wrap up in. And so that's the goal of this shawl, is to be that morning wrap. The 2 yarns that I'm holding together right now, actually I should say almost all of the yarn that I'm using for this project is Knit Picks palette yarn. Both of these are Knit Picks palette. This is in the charcoal heather colorway, and this is the hollyberry colorway. So those 2 are being held together right now. The only yarns that are not Knit Picks palette are the first two yarns here, and those were by Yarns Brunswick. It was just the black and the camel color, so those were only at the very beginning there. All the rest of the yarns will be Knit Picks palette yarns. So that's a super easy and fun project to have on the go as well. And my last project to share with you is being held in another project bag that I made myself. And these are my simple stockinette socks that I am knitting. And these haven't made a ton of progress because I only save these for when I need a project that I don't even have to look at. So this is the best project for that. So I intentionally am not working on them at any other time except when I need to work on something without looking at them. However, I did, since I recorded last time, I have added in the heels. So that is a part of the sock where I do need to pay more attention. And so I have done that part. Anyway, I cast on 60 stitches for these socks and did 2 by 1, so knit 2, purl 1 ribbing for 20 rounds. The yarn that I used on the cuffs and the heels was dyed by Maker's Haven in a mystery colorway. It was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Nicole. And then the leg of the sock is being knit using Paint Box yarns in the, well, it's called Paint Box Yarns Socks, and the color number is SS09, and then it also says Stripes Dreams on the label. So I don't know if Dreams maybe is the actual colorway name and the Stripes is the line, would be my guess, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm using US 02 millimeter needles and just doing plain stockinette. I have a few progress or stitch markers on here, just marking my rows as I was counting them. I did a total of 60 rounds for the legs. This progress keeper is marking where I was last time I recorded, so just on this turquoise stripe right here. So I did a little bit more of the leg and then did the slip stitch heel flap using that Maker's Haven yarn. And I've done all of the gusset decreases, and so now I'm back to just plain knitting in the round. And like I said, I just save these for when I need some blind knitting, kind of when I don't even have to look at my knitting. That's what I use these for. So they don't have to be made anytime soon. They're just, I'm actually planning on gifting these to my mother-in-law probably for her birthday, which is not until October. So I have plenty of time to work on these. So they're just my on-the-go knitting. So those are all of the projects that I have to share with you. I do want to share one other thing, or a couple of other things with you before I end this video. Right before I recorded this episode, I had the pleasure and honor of getting to do a video chat recording with Linda of Wool Hobby. And she did a little interview of me to ask me a few questions specifically about the Make 9 2024 Mal, and then a bit about my making, you know, how I learned how to knit and crochet, and a few different questions about my experience creating, you know, different patterns and having a YouTube channel and things like that. So that was so much fun to be able to do that with Linda. And the interview will be posted eventually on her YouTube channel. So I will link to her YouTube channel. She does interviews with other people, but also does regular knitting podcasts where she shares the different projects that she is working on. She does both knit and crochet as well and makes beautiful things. She also hand dyes yarn, and she is from the Netherlands. And so it was just really a true honor and pleasure to be able to get to spend some time with her. And that's why I had those few other projects on my bed, because I had shared she had asked me what was my favorite pattern in general, what's my favorite pattern to make. And so I shared the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket that I had shared on my last episode as a finished object, because this was my pick for my favorite pattern that I've made. If you've watched my videos before, that's no surprise to you, because I've made this pattern so often. And also the reason why we eventually got to the point where she had asked me to do an interview video with her was because she, on the last episode, I had announced that she had won some yarn for the Make 9 2024 Mal, because she is also participating in that make along. And again, she lives in the Netherlands. And I went to send her, she had won a sock set of yarn from 3 by the Sea Designs and a Progress Keeper. And I attempted to mail that to her in the Netherlands, and it was going to cost $64 to send a package to her in the Netherlands. It only weighed 6 ounces. I have sent packages overseas quite often for the Make 9 Mal throughout the years, and I have never had anything cost that much for such a small package. I did have a package that I sent overseas a couple of years ago, but it was a large package and it was very costly, but I expected it to be. For a small package that only weighs 6 ounces, I do not expect it to be that much. So that was shocking. And I sent Linda a message apologizing and saying, I'm so sorry, but there's no way that is feasible to spend that much money. It would just be ridiculous to spend $64 to send a sock set overseas. I think everybody would agree with that. Anyway, so she messaged me back and she said, well, I actually know of a lady that's coming to the Netherlands from Canada. And I thought, great, I have mailed packages to Canada and it's usually about double the price of something in America. So to send a 6-ounce package to somebody else in the States would probably be about $6 generally. That's what it typically is. And so to send something to Canada would typically be about $12. So that's okay. That's no problem at all. So I thought, great, I will send it to this lady in Canada, and then she's going to be traveling to the Netherlands and she'll see Linda and she can pass it off to Linda. Well, that was, now I can't quite remember. I think that one was going to be $45. What's the deal? I have heard of other people that have knitting YouTube channels say that they are not able to send packages overseas because the prices have gone up so much. But I hadn't seen such high prices until now. So that was really discouraging. And then Linda had suggested, would it be possible to vacuum seal it? I think maybe she had done that before. She had sent a package that she had vacuum sealed flat. So then it could be mailed as an envelope instead of a package. And I thought, well, it's worth a try. So I wasn't sure how to vacuum seal a package. Linda had said that she had gone to a local meat market and they were able to vacuum seal her package for her. And we do have a meat market in town that I maybe could have tried, but I felt a little awkward asking a meat market to vacuum seal a package of yarn for me. So I just thought I'd look it up on YouTube. How do you vacuum seal a package? And I was able to do it here at home very easily, and I was so pleased. So I undid it was a sock set, so it was a 100-gram skein and a 20-gram skein. I undid both of those hanks of yarn so that they were unfolded, untwisted. Put them into a Ziploc bag and tried to lay them as flat as I could, spreading out the yarn as well as I could. And I closed up the Ziploc bag, leaving only a couple of inches of an opening on one side of the bag. Then I put that bag, it was a gallon-size Ziploc bag. I put that bag inside a second gallon-size Ziploc bag, and I did the same with the second one. I closed it until it only had a little opening, just enough of an opening so that I could fit in the nozzle of my vacuum cleaner. And so then you would seal it up tight so it's real tight up against the nozzle of the vacuum cleaner. You turn on the vacuum, suck out all the air, and then having the double bag allows you to, once all of the air has been pushed out, to then close the interior bag while the vacuum's still on before you turn off your vacuum, so that you can, because if you just tried to, you wouldn't be able to close the bag without air going back in otherwise. So that's the trick, is you double bag it, and then you can, once you've got all the air out, through the two bags, you can just press down to seal the interior bag. Then you remove the exterior bag and your package is vacuum sealed. It worked perfectly. I was able to go to the post office, put it into an envelope, and it only cost $11, and I was able to send it directly to Linda rather than going through the Canadian friend of hers. So that I was so thankful to learn that it worked, and I wanted to share that with you all in case you have a similar situation where you would like to mail something overseas, but the pricing is exorbitant. So I'm very thankful that I'm still able to send things overseas if I need to, but I will have to continue to vacuum seal things. And I've even thought maybe it'd be worthwhile to vacuum seal packages even within the States, because it would still be extremely less expensive, I bet, to mail a letter rather than a package. And I thought I would just share that with you all in case that can help you all in any way as well. So that is all that I have to share with you all today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the different things that I've been working on, and I hope that you are really enjoying everything that you are making as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.